Hello students, how are you? This is economics lesson video for grade 11, presented by me, Mr. Fusumir Mias. It is for term 1, week 4 in lesson 3. In today's lesson, we are going to discuss about determinants of supply and the difference between change in quantity supplied and change in supply. Law of supply. Law of supply were the topic that we discussed in the previous session. Let us briefly revise that. Law of supply expresses the functional relationship between the price of a commodity and its quantity supplied. Price and supply are observed to be directly related. Whenever the higher the price, the higher will be the quantity supplied, and the lower the price, the lower will be the quantity supplied. There are assumptions related to the law of supply. We discussed that factors other than price will remain constant or ceteris paribus. Factors other than price will remain constant for the applicability or functionality of the law of supply. Factors other than price means price of related goods, price of factors of production, and no change in the objective or goal of the firm, no change in state of technology, the income of buyer and seller should remain constant. When all these factors remain constant, the law is going to be applied in the supply side. So, in the assumption, all other factors remain constant except the price of the commodity. Then we have also discussed about exceptions to the law of supply. There are some situations when the law of supply does not operate. In this case, we may not have a direct relationship between price of a commodity and supply. With an increase in price, less of a commodity is supplied and the vice versa is true. These are the cases during future expectation about change in price in the case of agricultural product, perishable commodities, goods of auction, and artistic goods. These are the situation or conditions that violate the law of supply and they are taken as exceptions to the law of supply. In this case, we're going to have a negatively sloped supply curve. The other part where concept is related to why do you have an upward slope supply curve. We try to figure out the reasons for the upward sloping of the supply curve. Among from the several factors or reasons for the upward slope of the supply curve, we have discussed three of these factors. The first one were expectation of profit. The higher the expectation of profit, when there is the higher the price of the commodity, and that lead to an increase in the supply of the commodity. And the other part, change in stock. Whenever there is high price, firms will encourage or expose their stock production into the market, and whenever there is the lower the price, they will retain their stock. And third, entry and exit of firms. When there is the higher the price of the commodity and the higher the profit margin, other firms will encourage to enter into the market and increase the supply of that commodity. Whenever there is a loss or low price of a commodity, they will withdraw from the market, and that will reduce the amount of production which is going to be supplied at low price. These three factors are the main reasons for the upward slope of the supply curve. This is what we have discussed in the previous session. Determinants of supply. Supply of a commodity is determined by a number of factors. Some of these factors is going to be discussed now here in this lesson. The first one is the price of a commodity. The price of a commodity is the most important factor affect its supply. Generally, the relationship between price and quantity supply is direct. Supply is more when the price is more, and it is low when the price is low. So price of a commodity is one of the main factors which affect the amount of commodity that are going to be supplied in the market. Then change in factor price. Change in factor price have a strong influence on the supply of good in the market. An increase in the price of factors of production leads to an increase in the cost of production. Then, as a result, the producer will not be able to sell same amount at the prevailing market price, since their production cost has increased. The only way the same amount can be offered to the market is with high price. So, change in factor price can also influence the amount of commodity which is available in the market. The third determinant or the main factor that affect the amount of commodity which supply into the market is price of related goods. An increase in the price of other related goods induces the firms to produce more of those other goods, leading to a reduction in the supply of the good whose price has remained unchanged. This is what we have in relation to the price of related goods. Objective of the firm, the other determinant element. Generally, the main objective of a firm is to maximize its profit. Maximization is one of the main objectives of firms. Profit is maximum when the difference between income and expenditure is maximum. As we know, revenue and expenditure, the difference between revenue and expense or cost of production. However, beside these objectives, there are other objectives which a firm may design, such as maximum sale, maximum employment, more production, and so on. In that situation, if a firm aim at some other objectives, such as more employment, beside the objective of maximum profit, the volume of output or supply will increase, even if profit is decline. So, objective of the firm is one of the other determinant elements which affect the amount of commodity which is available to the market. State of technology. If there is a change in the technique of production, lead to a fall in the cost of production, supply of a commodity will increase. When we change our method of production or technology into a more advanced one, it reduces our cost of production, and that leads to an increase in the supply of the commodity. On the other hand, supply of this commodity will become less, whose production depends on old technology. So, state of technology, that is a determinant factor. Other factors. Once we have listed the major factor, there are also a number of factors that you may list beside the main factors that we discussed in the above. There are many other factors which affect the supply of a commodity, such as physical policy of a government, the tax system, and other related issues, the price of the market, the price of the commodity that prevail in the market. That can also be a major factor for the supply of the commodity. Climate, the size of population, the number of households, and the likes. You may list other different factors that affect supply of a commodity. So these are the major determinants of supply. Difference between movement along the supply curve or change in quantity supplied and shift in the supply curve or change in supply. Student, what is their basic difference? Try to relate this concept from the concept of demand that we discussed in the previous lesson. Pause the video for a while and give your answer. Movement along a supply curve or changing quantity supplied. Other things being equal, if the quantity supplied increase or decrease due to a rise or fall in the price of the commodity alone, the result is going to be change in quantity supplied. Factors other than price here will remain constant. The only factor that results change in quantity supplied is a change in the price of the commodity. changing factor price, changing price of related good, objective of the firm, state of technology, or other factors here will remain constant. The only factor that result changing quantity supplied is the price of the commodity. Students, I hope you have tried the previous question. Your answer should look like this. Let us say it together. Extension of supply and contraction of supply. This is resulted due to the change in the price of the commodity. The only factor that result extension or contraction of supply is the price of the commodity. Factors other than price here will remain constant. We have listed those other factors. There will not be any change in those factors. The only factor which result extension of supply or contraction of supply is the price of the commodity itself. Whenever there is a decrease in the price of the commodity, the supply will also decrease. This is referred as contraction of supply. You can see the diagram on the right of the slide. When there is a decline in the price of a commodity, this result also decrease in the supply of a commodity. Quantity supplied will decreases due to a decrease in the price of the commodity. That is expressed as contraction of supply. Look at the diagram on the left. When there is an increase in the price of the commodity, that leads to increase in quantity supplied. The word quantity should be there. Quantity supplied also increases with an increase in price. This is referred as extension of supply. There is an upward movement during extension of supply. You can see from the graph there is an upward movement. That upward movement in supply curve within the given supply curve expresses extension of supply, which means an increase in quantity supplied. When there is a downward movement, that refers to contraction of supply, a decrease in the quantity supplied. Try to internalize the concept clearly. Shift in the supply curve or change in supply. If more or less quantity of a commodity is supplied due to the changing factors other than price of the commodity, it is known as shift in the supply curve or change in supply. Now, the factor that result the entire shift of the supply curve is factors other than price. Price here will remain constant, but other factors will result the entire movement of the supply curve to the right or to the left. This is how the supply curve looks like when there is shift in the supply curve or change in supply. Factors other than price are the main causes for the entire shift of the supply curve to the right or to the left. If you look at the price, in both cases, it is the same or constant. There is no change in the price of the commodity. Factors other than price, state of technology, price of related goods, price of factors of production, and other factors will result an increase or decrease in the supply. Whenever there is a positive change in factors other than price, that will lead to an increase in the supply. During this time, the supply curve shifts to the right. As you look at the diagram on the left, the entire supply curve will move to the right when there is a positive change in factors other than price. And the vice versa is true. When there is a negative change in the factors other than price, the supply curve will shift to the left. Look at the diagram on the right side on the slide. There is a decrease in supply. When there is a decrease in the supply curve will shift to the left from the original supply curve. This is how it looks like when there is a change in supply or shift in the supply curve. Okay, students, that's all for today. To briefly highlight what we have discussed in today's short lesson video, we have dealt with the determinants of supply and changing quantity supplied and changing supply. These are the two main topics that we have discussed today. In the determinants of supply, we try to list the major factors. There are a number of factors that affect the amount of commodity which is supplied by seller or producers. Among from these factors, we briefly discussed about price of the commodity, price of related good, changing factor, price, objective of the firm, state of technology. All these factors affect the amount of commodity which is available into the market by producers. The other part where the difference between changing quantity supplied and changing supply. When you say changing quantity supplied, it is mainly resulted due to the change in the price of the commodity. Other factors will remain constant or ceteris paribus. The only factor that result change in quantity demand is the change in price of the commodity. In the concept of change in supply, the factors that affect or result change in supply is factors other than price. When there is change in quantity supplied, we express the changes in these two technical terms: extension of supply, when there is an increase in the supply of a commodity, that is an upward movement in the given supply curve, and contraction of supply, it refers to a decrease in the quantity supplied, and that is a downward movement in the given supply curve. But factors other than price will result change in supply, and that is expressed as increase in supply and decrease in supply. Whenever there is a negative change in the factors other than price, may result a decrease in supply. When there is positive change, that will may result increase in supply. This is the overall concept that we have discussed in today's lesson. As usual, it is very short and precise. You need to read your textbook in detail to develop the information and the knowledge that you get from this short lesson video. Do this exercise on your exercise book. Particularly by answering the third question, you will prepare a summarized note that helps you to prepare yourself for the next lesson. That's all for today. Until we meet in the next lesson video, goodbye.